What's up guys, Groovy Guitar Dude here with a beginner guitar tutorial for Before You Go by Lewis Capaldi. If this video helps you out, hit that like and subscribe button, and let me know down in the comments below what are the songs by Lewis Capaldi that you want to learn on guitar. Guys, the first thing that you want to know to play Before You Go on guitar is that in order to get into some bar chords and keep this song as beginner friendly as possible, we're going to capo up to 1st fret. And if you don't have a capo, I'll have a link to get this capo for free right up here. The next thing that you want to know to play Before You Go on guitar is the structure of this song. We're going to start out with a verse, then go to pre-chorus, then chorus, then verse, pre-chorus, chorus again. Then we're going to have a short bridge, and then we're going to finish up with one last chorus. And the last thing that you want to know before we dive into Before You Go is the 6 chords that we need to play this song. The first one is D. The next one is D over A, which is the same as a D chord, but we're going to strum from the A string down. The next one is a D over C sharp. The next one is an A. The next one is a B minor 7. And the last one is a G major 7. And I'll have chord charts for all of those in the pinned comment below for those of you who need them. And with all that in mind, guys, let's dive into Before You Go. Man, this is such a beautiful song, and it's one that I've been jamming on for a while and really looking forward to sharing with you guys, but I wanted to make sure I found the easiest way, but also the most accurate way to teach it to you guys. It's a lot of fun to play, it's a beautiful song, and this is very, very similar to the way that Lewis plays it, so I think you guys are going to really enjoy this one. So, the first thing we need to talk about before we dive into anything else is the bass notes. Now, if you don't know what a bass note is, it's just the lowest note of whatever chord that we're playing. So this song is all picking, or almost all picking, so we need to really pay attention to these bass notes right early on, so that whenever we go through the rest of the song, we know what we're talking about whenever I say bass note. So let's go through chord by chord and take a look at what our bass notes are for each chord. So for our first chord, or D chord, our bass note is going to be on the D string. Next, for our D over A chord, our bass note is going to be on the A string. Next, for our B minor 7 chord, our bass note is going to be also on the A string. Next, for our A chord, our bass note is also going to be on the A string. Next, for our D over C sharp chord, our bass note is also going to be on the A string. And lastly, our G major 7 chord, our bass note is going to be on the low E string. So like I said, that's really important because most of this song is picking, and I want to make sure that whenever I'm going through picking patterns, you guys know what the bass notes of each of those chords are, because I'll say bass note a lot in this tutorial. So with that in mind, guys, let's take a look at the first thing that we're going to hear in this song, which is the chord progression and picking pattern that's going to play through all of our verses and our pre-choruses. So we're going to start with a D chord, and then we're going to go to B minor 7, then we're going to go to G major 7, and then we're going to go to D over A and A. Now you notice that those last 2 chords, the D over A and the A, have a star next to them, and the reason for that is because those chords are going to be played for only a half measure. That'll make a little bit more sense whenever we get to our picking pattern, but it essentially means that we're going to cut our picking pattern in half for those last 2 chords. I'll explain that in a little bit more detail here in a second whenever we go over our picking pattern. So, back to our D chord, our first chord of this progression, let's take a look at our picking pattern for each chord. So for each chord, we're going to pick bass note, B, bass note, B, B. And we're going to pick that 4 times for each chord in this progression, except for the chords that we play for a half measure. The chords that we play for a half measure, we're only going to pick through that pattern twice. So the starred chords, we're only going to play through that picking pattern twice. All the other chords, we're going to play through it 4 times. So let's walk through this chord by chord. We'll start again with our D chord. This is our first chord in the progression. We're going to go bass note, B, bass note, B, B. We're going to do that 4 times for that chord. And then we're going to go to B minor 7. We're going to play bass note, B, bass note, B, B. We're going to play through that 4 times. And then we're going to go to our G minor 7. For this one, we're going to do the same thing. Bass note, B, bass note, B, B. And then we're on to our D over A. and this one's a half measure, so we're going to go bass note, B, bass note, B, B. We're going to play through that one twice, and then we're going to go to our A chord, and we're going to do the same thing because this one's another half measure, so we're going to go bass note, B, bass note, B, B. And we're going to go through that twice as well, like I said, because it's a half measure. And that chord progression and picking pattern is going to repeat through all of our verses and all of our pre-choruses all the way through the song. So guys, I'm going to play through that a couple of times very slowly so that you can make sure that you have all the right stuff in all the right places. Then I'll play through it a couple of times full speed so that you can match it up with the speed of the song. So slowly a couple of times first through the chord progression and picking pattern that's going to repeat through all of our verses and pre-choruses will look about like this. And guys, a couple of times full speed through the picking pattern that's going to repeat through all of our verses and pre-choruses on Before You Go will look about like this. And from there, guys, we're into what's being played for our choruses on Before You Go. So for our choruses, we're going to have a pretty similar setup, but we're going to change up our chord progression, and our picking pattern is going to be a little bit different too. It's going to have a very similar feel, but we're just switching a couple of things up. So first, let's take a look at our chord progression that's going to play through our choruses. So we're going to start with the D chord, then go to D over A, then we're going to go to B minor 7, then G major 7 for a half measure, and then A for a half measure. And then we're going to go to our next line, which is going to be very similar, but there's one small difference. We're going to go D, D over A, B minor 7, G major 7 for a half measure, and then we're going to go to an A, but this time for a full measure. So that last A is going to be a full measure, whereas on the top line, the last A in that top line is only going to be a half measure. That's the only difference between those two lines, and that's the full chorus chord progression. So now that we have our chord progression, let's take a look at our picking pattern. Now, like I said, this is going to be very similar to the picking pattern that we're using for our verses and our pre-choruses. We're just going to change it up a little bit, but it's going to be a really similar feel. So let's start with our D chord as our example here. For our picking pattern for our chorus, we're going to go bass notes, B, bass note, E, B. We're going to do that 4 times for all of the non-starred chords and 2 times for all of the starred chords, just like that. So one more time, we've got bass note, B, bass note, high E, B. 4 times for the non-starred chords, 2 times for the starred chords. So let's do a quick walkthrough of this chord by chord. We'll start with our D chord here. For this one, we're going to go bass note, B, bass note, E, B. We're going to repeat that 4 times. And then we're going to go to our D over A chord. For that one, we're going to do the same thing. Bass note, B, bass note, E, B. Like I said, also 4 times for that one. Next, we're to our B minor 7. For that one, we're going to go bass note, B, bass note, E, B. Also 4 times. And then we're to our G major 7th. For this one, it's a half measure. So we're going to go bass note, B, bass note, E, B. We're going to play that one twice because it's a half measure. Then we're going to go to our A chord. We're going to go bass note, B, bass note, E, B. Also twice because that one is a half measure as well. Now again, the second line is pretty much the same, so we're going to run through this one a little bit more quickly, but we do have that one difference there at the end. I want to make sure that you guys catch that. So we're going to start with our D chord here. Second line, we've got bass note, B, bass note, E, B. We're going to repeat that 4 times. Then we have our D over A. We're going to do bass note, B, bass note, E, B, also 4 times. Then we're going to go to our B minor 7th. We're going to go bass note, B, bass note, E, B, also 4 times for that one. Then we're going to go to our G major 7th. This is a half measure, so we're going to go bass note, B, bass note, E, B, twice for that one. And then we're on to that last A chord there. We'll go bass note, B, bass note, E, B, and that one is going to be 4 times through because that last A is a full measure. And that right there is your whole entire chorus, guys. It just plays through that once for each one of your choruses. It's a little bit tricky because it's kind of a lot to remember. But other than that, once you get in the groove of it and get in the feel of the song, it's actually not too bad. So guys, same thing with this one as we did on our verses and pre-chorus. What I'm going to do is play through this chord progression and picking pattern once very slowly so that you can make sure you have all the right stuff in all the right places. Then I'll play through it once full speed so that you can match it up with the speed of the song. So slowly first through the chord progression and picking pattern that's going to play in our choruses for Before You Go will look about like this. And guys, once full speed through the chord progression and picking pattern that's going to play through the choruses on Before You Go will look about like this. And from there, guys, we're into what's being played for the bridge. Now, for the bridge, we're just going to have one chord progression that plays once through, and we're going to have a picking pattern that we already know. So first, let's take a look at this chord progression. We're going to start with a B minor 7, then we're going to go to a G major 7, and then we're going to go to D over A, and then A. And then the next line, we're going to go back to that B minor 7, and then G major 7, and then A, and A again. And what we're going to do for our picking pattern is we're actually going to play the same picking pattern that we were playing for our choruses, but we're going to shorten it to only 2 times through that picking pattern for each chord. So again, that picking pattern is this. It's going to be bass note, B, bass note, E, B. Twice for all of those chords. So let's walk through it chord by chord. We'll start with our B minor here. We're going to go bass note, B, bass note, E, B. We're going to do that twice. Then we go to G major 7, bass note, B, bass note, E, B, twice. D over A, bass note, B, bass note, E, B, also twice. Then we go to our A, bass note, B, bass note, E, B, also twice. Then we're going to go to our B minor 7 again. We got bass note, B, bass note, E, B, twice. G major 7, bass note, B, bass note, E, B, again twice. And then we're on to this A, and for this A, we're going to play this for 2 measures. So we're going to play it a total of 4 times. So we're going to go bass note, B, bass note, E, B. So that's why that A is there twice, is because we're playing a total of 4 times through the picking pattern on that last A chord. So same thing here, guys. I'm going to play through this once very slowly, and then I'll play through it once full speed so that you can match it up with the speed of the song. So once slowly first through the bridge on Before You Go will look about like this. And guys, one time full speed through that bridge chord progression and picking pattern on Before You Go will look about like this. And guys, the very last thing I want to share with y'all is that little strumming piece that's at the very beginning of the last chorus of the song. So right after the bridge, it starts into this strumming thing where he goes into a chorus, but it's this different kind of strum pattern thing before he gets into the normal chorus picking pattern. So I want to share that with you guys. It's not too terribly difficult. It's probably the easiest part of the song, so I'm stoked to get to this part and kind of finish up, because the song is a little bit tricky. It's been kind of a tricky lesson. So our chord progression for that part is going to be D, D over C sharp, B minor 7, and G major 7. And we're going to repeat that a couple of times with this strum pattern for each chord. We'll start with our D as our example here. We're going to go down, up, 4 times for each chord. So closer to full speed, down, up, about like that, and then 4 times through for each chord. Down, up, 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 down, up. Just about like that, but maybe even just a tiny bit faster. I don't think I can talk that fast and say down, up, that fast, but it'll be about this speed. About like that, about that speed. So with that in mind, let's do a little walkthrough, or try to do a little walkthrough of this chord progression with that strum pattern. I'll see if I can keep up saying the downs and the ups. So Start here with our D chord. We'll go down, up, down, up, up, 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 down, up, down, up, up. Whew. And that is going to repeat a couple of times before we dive into our normal chorus picking pattern for that very last chorus. So guys, a couple of times through that chord progression and strum pattern without me talking will look about like this. That is everything that you need to know to play before you go on guitar. As always, if you have any questions, you can hit me up in the comments down below. I'm usually pretty quick at getting back to those. And again, if this video helped you out, hit that subscribe button. I have about 750 other guitar and ukulele lessons on this channel, and I usually try to post at least 3 to 5 new lessons every single week. So if you're learning guitar or ukulele, there cannot be a more perfect channel for you to check out. If you want to see where I'm traveling, what songs I'm jamming on, or pictures of my dog, you can hit up my Instagram at @thegroovyguitardude. Link for that will be in the description below. And lastly guys, if you want to support the channel and get your name in the credits at the end of each new guitar tutorial, you can hit up my Patreon at patreon.com/thegroovyguitardude. Link for that will be in the description below as well. Guys, Before You Go is such a beautiful song. It's just one of those awesome, just guitar-driven acoustic songs. It's one that I've been wanting to share with you guys for a really long time. Really, ever since it first came out and I first heard it, I was like, I have to learn this song, I have to find a beginner-friendly way to play it, and I have to share it with you guys. And so I've been just jamming on it for a while and like working out kind of just some good ways to play it and watching the way that Lewis actually plays it. And this way I felt was just like as close to the original as possible. This is very close to the way that he plays it live. And it's also fairly beginner friendly. And I know that may seem like after this long, super long, complicated lesson and like, I don't know about you guys, but my fingers are like super numb after playing this for the last like hour and a half that I've been filming this. But it's still all fairly beginner friendly chords. And the picking pattern, even though it's fast, it's not super intricate. It's a fairly beginner picking pattern, or there's several picking patterns, but all of them are fairly beginner friendly. And there's nothing too crazy going on as far as chords go here. There's no bar chords or anything like that. There are some that are a bit of a stretch, but overall all of the chords are still pretty beginner friendly. And even though the picking is fast, it's still pretty beginner friendly picking. So what I would recommend if you're a beginner with this song is take your time. Play it over and over and over again very slowly until you get those parts down really slow, and then work on building up your speed once you have the parts down. Because like I said, all of the chords and the picking in this song are fairly beginner friendly. It's just a matter of getting it up to full speed that makes it tricky. So just practice it really slowly until you can work your speed up and get it up to full speed. But guys, I had a lot of fun playing this song. It's a beautiful song, really fun one. Feels good to be back. It's been like, I feel like so long since I've seen you guys and posted a tutorial. So it feels good to be back and hanging out with you guys and jamming. So I thought this one was a good one to come back with too. So I had a lot of fun learning this song. I hope you guys have a lot of fun learning it as well. I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see y'all soon.